When new students arrive for their first lesson at the Pinkman Academy, we begin with an orientation meeting between the family, the player, and our staff. It's kind of like a warm-up to us. It's important to show the student how much we care before we tell the family how much we know. The majority of our new students arrive as a referral from one of our current successful students. Most of our new students have been to other baseball facilities and come to us seeking a higher level of instruction. Therefore, it is our job to discover what they want, what they need, and what everyone's expectations are. During the initial conversation, we explain our teaching pyramid: building relationships, teaching fundamental skill, understanding strategies and tactics, learning how to handle pressure, stressing the importance of athleticism, strength, endurance, and flexibility, and how it relates to their pitching, along with the vital importance of sports nutrition, and above all, the most important aspect of everything we do in our mentor program is teaching athletic values and leadership. We have been nationally recognized as video analysis experts for over 20 years, analyzing over 1,500 videos every year. Each student receives a complete video analysis before we start instruction. The vital importance of video is to discover what the problem is before we provide the solution.
So now, Tahiti, what we're going to do is take a look at really what you're doing well, what you can improve upon, and really get an insightful look as to what exactly you need to improve upon. You know, as we start out this journey together. Okay. A lot of times when we ask players, you know, what type of hitter are they, we get a variety of different answers from, you know, I'm a base hit hitter, or I'm a line drive hitter, and you know, I don't strike out much, but I get on base. So, you know, but we also get some guys who say, you know what, I strike out a lot, or I would like to make better contact with the ball. I like to hit the ball further, as you mentioned earlier. You want to hit the ball harder, you want to hit the ball further, you want to send the ball more into the outfield. Okay? So what we're going to do now is, as we take a look and see what you're doing, we're going to figure out how to make that happen. Okay? Now, as you're coming out, in the beginning of your stance, I like the way that you're starting out. Okay? I like the width of your stance. Okay? I like the positioning of your hands, very comfortable as you're starting out here. I like the hands that are starting roughly right at your shoulder height. A lot of times players, when they come in, their hands tend to be very high because their coaches wanted them to keep their hands up. I like the fact that your hands are starting shoulder height. You have a very good, aggressive looking stance to begin with. So this is an excellent way to start. Okay? Now, as we begin your swing, okay, you don't really take much of a step, and you don't really need to take much of a step. You can take, you know, as little a step as possible. Sometimes you don't even need to step. But what you're doing here is, you know, you're really just kind of opening up that front foot to start your swing. Now, as you begin your swing, all right, we see how that back elbow tucks into your side, and it actually comes a little bit in front of you. Now, as we see that, as we take a look and see what happens when that elbow comes in front, we also see now how this front arm tends to straighten out. We see how there's, we see how there is a, you know, a pretty firm straight arm as you're coming through. What happens is when guys are straightening that front arm, their swing and their hands tend to get a little bit away from their body. Their hands tend to push away and their swing becomes a bit long. Okay? If we can try to keep our front elbow bent so that when we are in this, what we call a bat lag position, when the bat is pointing directly towards, in the direction of the catcher, and the knob of the bat is pointing towards the pitcher, you know, we want to see this front arm bent so that we can create a little bit more flex in our arm, so that when we actually go to hit the ball, we can then extend and drive and push through the ball. Okay? Now, as you're coming through, we see how, as you're making contact with the ball, you're in a great position right now, right? This back elbow is flexed. It's not completely against your side, but it's in a good position. However, we do see that this front arm is straight. I like the fact that this front leg is, roughly straight. It's got a little bit of flex to it. It's not bad. And then we've got this back foot. I like how you're up on your toe. The back heel is up in the air. This knee is in. So you're really in a great looking position at contact. This is really good. Okay. If we can improve upon this front elbow, I really think that you're going to feel a little more drive, a little more push, and a little more thrust into the out when you make contact with the ball. Okay. Now, let me compare you to a picture of Mickey Mantle. Okay. As we take a look and see what Mickey Mantle does, we see how let's get you into that same position, into your stance. Okay. We get you in a very similar looking position, right? All right. Your feet are roughly spread the same width apart. His hands, however, tend to start out a little lower, maybe a little more down by his letters. And really, back in the heyday of when Mickey Mantle played, the bats were much, much heavier. He may have used a 34-inch bat, but it might have been 36 to 38 ounces. So they couldn't afford to lift their hands up above their shoulder. So they started with their hands roughly down around their chest. Okay. Now, as we move forward with what Mickey's doing, all right, we see now as he approaches the ball, we see how that front foot, he takes a bit of a stride. Okay. And when he does that, when he strides, all right, he tends to get a little bit longer, but he hasn't really lost that look of strength or of explosiveness. Okay. Now, as we take a look at you, as you tend to step or just kind of begin your motion forward, all right, it looks to me, when we compare images here, that you could afford to either take a little bit of a step forward, or we could start out in a slightly wider stance. Okay. I typically like to have players 15 and under have a little bit wider stance so they don't have to step as much into the ball. That way they can maintain more control over their body, and they don't fall off balance by stepping and striding and reaching for the ball when they begin their swing. So if we were to start out your stance, let's say the width of your bat. Oh, I'm sorry, not the width, the length of your bat. Okay, how long is your bat?
Somewhere around 30.
Yeah, it's 30 inches. Okay, so if we were to take your bat and we were just to lay your bat down by your feet, and then you have your feet just at the end of the bat, that would be a good indication of how wide your stance should really be. Okay, so as we move along from stance, we can see now how as the mitt starts to turn, we see how that back elbow tends to seal against his side, and he really turns into that bat lag position. Okay, we see the same thing out of you. Now, there's one slight difference as we take a look at these positions. One, your front arm is roughly straight, and we see his front arm almost in a 90-degree angle. Okay, we have his back elbow tucked, that front elbow bent and kind of lifted up in the air, and you can see how you're in a very similar position with your legs. If your legs were just a little longer, I bet that this front leg would be a little bit straighter. Okay, so now as we get into this bat lag position, now we come through to contact. Okay, and you can see how at contact you're in a very similar position. It does appear that your legs, are a little narrow, are a little too close together, but you're making really good, solid contact in this position. All right. We see with Mickey here, we hit that front leg, stay straight, and take a look at his knee right now. His calf is parallel to the ground. All right, and that happens because his legs are as wide as they are, and as he goes to swing, that knee really turns and drops in, and he's up on that toe. And you notice how that back foot even kind of swings around his body, kind of backwards a little bit, but he drags his toe as he goes to swing. Okay. All right. So let's show you another picture. Let's show you a more current swing. Okay. So now, as we come up, okay, we see how as we start to swing, there's a little bit of a step, but you can see how I'm already starting in a wide position. Okay, I'm in a wide stance. I take a little bit of a step, and it looks like, I like to think that I look like I'm getting even stronger by taking that step. But as I step, you can also see how my body stays very still, very quiet. I'm not moving from side to side. I'm not standing up or crouching down anymore. But as I'm starting out, I'm loading and I'm getting my body into a good, strong starting position. Okay? As we come out, we can see how, we have a very similar look to what we're doing. Our knees are bent. We're bent at the waist. Our hands are in a roughly same position. The elbows are good. We're starting out pretty well. Now, as we begin our swing, we take a look and see how, as I begin to turn my body and swing in that bat lag position, okay, we see how those arms are a little different. Very similar still. I don't have as much flex in my front arm as Mickey Mantle does, but I have a little bit more flex in the position that you're getting into. Okay? Now as we come through to contact, all right, again, very similar look to what you're doing. All right, but now after we finish, all right, one of the things that we like to really talk to guys about is, in terms of after you hit the ball, where are you pointing? Where's the bat going? And where do you want to hit the ball? Okay? Where does it look like I hit the ball after I hit the ball?
In the air.
In the air, right? It looks like I'm trying to hit the ball into the outfield, right? Where does it look like you're trying to hit the ball right now when you come through to swing?
In the infield.
Right. It looks like you're just looking to hit a ground ball or a line drive. Would you say? Is that safe to say? Okay. So now one of the most exciting parts about teaching hitting is seeing how players can make up their own mind as to where they want to hit the ball. If you want to hit the ball down, where would you swing?
Like a little more towards your body.
Okay. In which direction would you swing?
Down.
You would swing down, right? Okay. If you wanted to hit the ball, let's say, head height through the infield, where would you swing?
Around a straight angle, a little higher than straight.
Yeah, a little higher, a little straighter. Okay. What if you were to choose a target out in the infield, like the shortstop's head, or the third baseman's head, or maybe a sign in the outfield, or the pitcher's chest, or the pitcher's head, and when you swing, you were to point that bat right at that pitcher's chest, or point the bat right at the shortstop's head? Where do you think the ball would go?
Where you want it to go?
Yeah, pretty much, in the direction of where you're pointing, right? Now, if you wanted to hit the ball more into the outfield, if you wanted to hit the ball, let's say, over the fence, where would you point?
Up.
Up, right? Okay? So, we have these different thoughts and these different ideas and different directions. And so you can change this if you want. If you want to hit the ball more in the outfield, swing more in the outfield. If you want to hit the ball more in the infield, swing like you want to hit the ball in the infield. It's totally up to you. There's not one right or wrong swing to make. There's the swing that you want to make when the situation presents itself, when you step up to the plate. You're not always going to want to make the same swing at the same time every single at bat, right? Because sometimes you get on and there's men on first and second, so you got to hit the ball to the right side. Sometimes you get on and there's just a man on first, so you want to hit the ball maybe more up the middle. Sometimes you get on, there's a man on third base, so you want to hit the ball more maybe in the alleys, in the left center or right center. Sometimes you get up and there's no one on base, so you can take a free swing, right? It's good at 10 and 11 years old to say, you know what, my job as a hitter is to get on base. But which base do you want to touch?
All of
them. That's right. You want to touch all of them. So if you think about it, all right, you get up there, no men on, no one out, first inning, you're the second guy up to the base, and maybe the first guy got out. You can say, all right, with this swing, with this ball that's going to come right down the middle of the plate, where are you going to hit the ball? And it can be really anywhere you choose. Now, as long as we have the information of how to make the proper swing to say, all right, I want to hit a double into left center. How do I do that? I want to hit a single to the right side. How do I do that? I want to hit a home run. Do you know how you hit home runs?
Hit it hard.
You practice hitting home runs, right? It's like learning math or learning how to spell a new word. If you get long words, you don't know how to spell them, what do? You practice spelling it, right? So if you can practice hitting home runs, what do you think is going to happen?
I can hit more.
Chances are you might actually hit a home run, okay? So, all right. Now, one of the things that I think is going to be the most important for you is not just what happens when you swing, but what happens after you swing, okay? Once you hit the ball here, all right, once you hit the ball, you come through, and notice how when I finish where my hands go, how my back shoulders pointing right towards the pitcher, but notice how my body still simulates what I wanted to do when I hit the ball, okay? And what I mean by that is making sure that this back foot, we want to make sure this back foot stays up and the knee stays bent, and we want to make sure this front foot stays on the ground, okay? We want to do this for strength and for balance so that we can be strong from the beginning of our swing to the middle of our swing all the way through the end of our swing. When we run to first base, we don't just run and stop on first base, right? Yeah. You run through the base. Well, hitting is the same way. We want to hit through the ball. We just don't want to hit to the ball. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, let's now hop out on the floor and start to take a look and see what we can do about helping you hit the ball harder, further, the way you want to. Okay?
Okay.